Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I am Sugandha Gupta, a placemaker and urbanism enthusiast. I work at BFAS Plus, which is an architecture, urbanism, and placemaking studio in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands. I would firstly like to thank you all for participating in our second webinar in a series of three on placemaking. We had an interesting and informative webinar last Thursday with the placemaking legend Fred Kent and the director of BFAS Plus, Stefan Bodecker. And we can also share the link of the video in the chat with you if you would like to have a look at that. Today, we are hosting our next webinars with Okrah Donkor and Paco Bunnik, who are established names in the Netherlands in community development, urbanism, and placemaking. And then I would like to welcome our speakers, Okrah Donkor and Paco Bunnik. I will just give a short introduction for Okrah first. Okrah is the founder and CEO of a youth empowerment organization called Triple Threat in Schalkwijk, which is a developing area in Haarlem in the Netherlands. And Okrah started this organization in 2009 to inspire the youth of his neighborhood. And since then, he has been inspiring a lot of many others. And Triple Threat uses the community role models and culture to help youth become self-sufficient. And I think Okrah's passion for basketball made a difference in his life. And that is how he wants to inspire the youth with the same passion. So we'll be hearing more from him about this. Today, he'll be talking about the relationship of placemaking and community building. Following Okrah, we will have Paco Bunnik as our next speaker, who has been practicing urban design for 25 years in the Netherlands, for over 25 years in the Netherlands. Paco is working for the Department of Planning and Sustainability for the municipality of Amsterdam and focuses on integral urban planning for the city of Amsterdam. His recent projects include Master Plan Bouwslotermeerplein, Bouwsloterham Waterfront, NDSM Waterfront, Central Business District Zuidas Amsterdam. And he has also been working with the light art installations in Amsterdam, mostly with the Light Art Festival in the city. Today, he's going to talk about a city's, mostly Amsterdam's, perspective on placemaking and community building. So for today, we have a short program of 1.5 hours. First, Okrah will speak about his topic and placemaking and how he thinks placemaking helped with community building and social coherence. And following him, Paco will be talking about the Amsterdam's perspective on placemaking and community building. So Okrah, with no further delay, so we are going to put you in the spotlight and then you can continue.
Thank you, Sugandha. What a beautiful introduction. My name is Okrah Donkor, and yeah, nice that I can talk to you about my passion, and that's helping you develop. I'm not used to do this in English, so forgive me if it's not as fluent as you are used to, but I'm trying, so bear with me. I'm going to talk today about, I'm going to share my screen. Yeah, Triple Threat, changing lives, changing attitudes. Like I said, my name is Okrah Donkor. I'm 31 years old. Right now, I got two little children, a daughter of 1.5 years and a son of 3 years old. I grew up in Schalkwijk, an area where I'm really proud of because it's where I grew up and where my childhood I have a lot of fun. But it also was a place where a lot of kids grew up with less perspective. And mostly where I saw problems from beginning on is that I grew up myself in a single mother household where there was a lot of love there, but there was minimum time because my mother had to work a lot. So that just meant that she couldn't be there all the time. And that's one aspect of it. But when you grow up in an area where there are a lot of kids that also come from those kinds of situations, then you see that that problems start to occur. And where I really got in contact with that is when I grew up and I played outside a lot. But when it was 8 o'clock, my mom called me and said, "You need to be inside right now." And all the other kids were still outside. And at that moment, I experienced that as unfair because I wanted to be outside also. But right now I understand that's guidance, that's love, that's what you're supposed to have as a child. But growing up in an area like where I lived, that wasn't the bare minimum. The bare minimum was just being in this country, a lot of immigrant families, a lot of one-parent households, and just being in the Netherlands was for them was like that's enough. There's you got so much more around you, so much more facilities, so much more chances than we had as a child, and I think this is really underestimated what the aspect of love and guidance means in that. So what happened was that I went to school and I actually did a pretty good job, but mostly because of my mother that really guided me in that and then made sure that I was prepared the next day I went to school. That's why I needed to be at home at 8 so I can sleep well, and she would go through my homework. But the kids around me didn't have that. So they weren't motivated to do their schoolwork. They weren't motivated to do things with their passion. They were just going day by day. And in the beginning stages, that doesn't really matter. But the older you get, the more that will hunt you down. So I did pretty well at school, but I didn't really had a perspective about how I saw my life until I found basketball. And basketball opened everything up for me, because when I found the passion for basketball, that was the first time that I really had a goal. I really had a clear vision of what I wanted to do, but also about who I wanted to be. Because for the first time, I could say I'm a basketball player. That was like an identity I could really see myself in. So I started playing basketball, and basketball is an American sport, and in Holland it's really like everything doesn't need to be over the top, and it just needs to be normal. That's the standard. But in basketball, it's over the top, and it's really about a lifestyle. You want to go for the NBA, and your whole life is actually surrounded by everything that comes with that. So that's what I went to do. So I was still in the area with a lot of negative influences around me. But the fact that I had basketball made me a man on a mission. So I had a clear vision, and nothing could distract me in that. So no negative influence could take me away from that, because I really knew what I wanted to do. And I also had a coach that really was there for me, also outside of basketball. And that was the first time that I actually came across the fact that I actually missed the father figure in my life that I didn't have. I always thought that I didn't need that, and I didn't really miss that. But when I had a coach that was there for me outside of basketball, I really knew like I need this in my life. I need somebody that can talk to me a different way than my mother can, that can give me some kind of discipline and mentality that also really comes from the sport. And I learned that with basketball, I learned that if you just work hard for something, you will get better in it, and you will get the results. And that's like that with dribbling. So if you're not good with dribbling with your left hand, you just need to do it a lot and you will get better in it. But you can also translate it to life, because that's with everything you do, that's just what makes the difference. And when I came to the conclusion that that was the vision that I needed, I could also translate that to school, to work, to everything. I started playing basketball on a higher level, and I really developed myself in that. But I also did better at school, did better at work, because I understood what was necessary to to be self-sufficient. And when I acknowledged that, that was the point that I looked at my area where I came from, Schalkwijk, where I'm really proud of. But I saw that there was no growth. We were still at the same place, same people were doing the same things, because they didn't have something like I had, a passion, something that really opened up doors. And that was, for me, like a realization moment. What I experienced with basketball, I want to translate that to the neighborhood, first of all. So we started off with the neighborhood. And that's when I started Triple Threat. Triple Threat is a combination. From the beginning in 2009, I started it. I was 19 years old. And I was like, I want to give through what I got from basketball. But I didn't just want to do basketball. I wanted to combine it with dance. So it was basketball and dance, because we also wanted to reach girls. But on top of that, we said lifestyle is the most important things. So the youth lifestyle and the culture, that's the most important thing there is. And that's even more important than the basketball and dance part. So we started combining that, and we started off with a small project. Every Sunday, there were basketball, dance, and music, just in a little gym in Schalkwijk. And we just started doing that. So if you also look at placemaking, it's about just doing things with people and giving them also the leverage and also the opportunity to show themselves and be connected. And that's what I started to do at 19 years old, because I understood at that moment how I could reach my peers. So kids from my age group, that is really like from 15 to 21 years old, is the most difficult target group to get. But because I was self part of it, I could really easily see how can we connect with them? What do they need? What do they like? And we also really made them involved in the project from day one. So they were also owners of the project itself. And thereby, I was doing a marketing course, my master's in marketing. So I really used also all the skills and all the knowledge I had from marketing on this project. So it was for the kids, for the youth, it felt more like a brand, like a movement. Then it felt like hope. It really felt like something that was theirs. So I started doing that. Started off really small, and actually went really well from day one. So we had like 80 kids from the first time we did that. Actually, my idea was to do that 6 times and then stop with it, because I thought if I do this 6 times, I will have the whole neighborhood inspired, and I could go on with my marketing course and do things with that. But there was so much energy, so much people that were getting involved, and so much potential and talent that was really coming up. So that's why I decided this is what I want to do. I want to keep doing this. I want to get structure in it. So we started a foundation, the Triple Threat Foundation. And right now we have a foundation and also a basketball club. We started off with 3 teams and in 2012. Right now we have 24 teams. And those are teams that are playing on amateur level. But also we have 8 teams that play on the highest level in the Netherlands. We think it's really important that there's recreative level, but also professional level, so you can really see where you can grow to. And thereby we have a foundation that really focus on development in the broadest form. So from music lessons to homework guidance, dance, you can name it, and we are doing it. And the main factor is we are building a community. We are building a place where kids want to be themselves from intrinsic motivation, because they are surrounded with positive role models, but also with a lot of opportunities, energy, passion. They are involved with a lot of positive things around them, platform. The vision behind it is actually consists of 3 things. 1, family. We really believe that being part of a bigger picture gives you identity and makes you also want to do more, want to see more, want to get more. We don't call it peer pressure, but we call it group motivation. So being part of a group that wants to move forward really inspires each other. And because we came from the same situations as the kids that we guide, we can really make another level of contact and make them believe in themselves, and also make them believe in being together and move together. Besides that, we believe in talent development. The school system doesn't always find out the talents of the kids there are, definitely in areas like ours. Like I said in the beginning, a lot of kids grow up and don't have the guidance from home, what makes it really sometimes tough to do the things in school they need to. But that doesn't mean they are less. That doesn't mean they have less potential or less talents. We just need to find out what those talents are and facilitate them. And that's what we are doing within our community, facilitate the talents we see every day and make sure they grow. And above all of that, there needs to be a safe environment, a place where you can be yourself, and where you can say, I had the choice. That's the most important thing for us. There are negative influence in our area. There are positive influence in our area. But what we saw is that the positive influence weren't reaching the kids. So yeah, they were there. There are chances. But if you don't see those chances, then they don't have any value. And that's what we do. We make those chances really visible and make the kids have a perspective where they can make their own decisions. Of course, there are still kids that make the wrong decisions, but we dare to say that they had the choice, and there was a choice really close by, where they also could say there is a positive alternative for the streets. Actually, what I already said, it's really important that the thing that really is our unique selling point and is different than what we see around us is everything we do is from a positive perspective. We don't look at kids like problem childs or like kids without opportunities, because we were those kids. So we know that there are a lot of opportunities, a lot of talents, but we just need to see how we can expose those, make them really flourish in that. And that's why we build a platform wherein we develop role models. So kids that grew up in the same situation, we develop them to role models so they can guide the next generation of kids, and in various different ways. So that's why I also want to show you a video. And because I also would like to be interactive, I want some responses. So if there are people can also give responses to the video and what you saw, I would really like that. Right now,
wij hebben het zelf meegemaakt. We zijn zelf allebei vrij lastige jongens geweest. Talentvol, ieder op een eigen manier. Maar het moest er wel eerst even uitgehaald worden.
Door sport heb ik gewoon echt leren, als ik boos word, of ik ga lopen matten, of ik ga lopen schreeuwen, dan lig ik de wedstrijd uit. Dat wordt erin geramd, weet je. Discipline, op tijd komen, plannen, doorzettingsvermogen, de tegenslagen.
Triple Chat betekent voor mij een way of life. In een cruciaal punt in mijn leven ben ik erbij gekomen. Op school was ik niet zo serieus bezig. En eigenlijk maatschappelijk, hoe ik in de community stond, daar was ik me sowieso niet bewust van. En ik wist niet echt waar ik naartoe ging met mijn leven.
Wat we eigenlijk proberen te doen is jongeren in hun kracht te zetten. Dat door middel van hun passie. Ik wil gewoon mensen ontwikkelen. Ik vind het tof, ik vind het leuk om die groei te zien. Ik krijg er energie van.
Zelfvertrouwen opgebouwd. Ik ben niet meer zo bang om voor een grote groep te staan.
Wij willen iets teruggeven voor de community, iets terugdoen.
Oprecht, met liefde.
Heeft ons van de straat gehouden hierop.
Een gevoel te geven dat je er echt bij hoort en dat is gewoon tof.
Dan proberen we ook gewoon een sterke band met de jeugd te creëren.
Echt een wilskracht gekregen en een doorzettingsvermogen.
Ze proberen te steunen in alles wat je doet.
Dat is echt wel een kracht.
Omdat je echt gewoon een voorbeeldfunctie hebt.
Eén familie, Triple Chat is gewoon één familie.
Triple Chat is echt een geweldige club. Het is een hele persoonlijke club, ze zijn echt met jou bezig. Ze houden van iedereen, ze regelen alles voor je. vind het geweldig.
It's just growing. It's got a great positive attitude, and hopefully one day I can have my kids here and they can also grow up and play for the club also.
Heel veel jongens met wie wij om zijn gegaan hebben gemerkt dat je sneller op het slechte pad komt als je buiten hangt en niks doet. En sport heeft daarin voor ons een hele positieve invloed gehad en het is ook echt onze passie geworden.
Ik vind het wel super. Het was niet echt heel levendig hier, dus dat ze dit hebben gebouwd en dat iedereen bij elkaar is gekomen. Het is wel leuk geworden, ja.
Ik vind het heel leuk, vooral dat het in de Schaapwijk gebeurt. Omdat het hier meestal niet gebeurde, maar blijkbaar kan alles door TTT.
Wij waren zelf de jongen, wij zijn zelf hier opgegroeid. We hebben zelf meegemaakt hoe het is om van iets kleins naar iets heel groots te gaan.
Dat hij dan komt en toch hoort wat wij te zeggen hebben en ook de positieve dingen ziet, vind ik echt tof.
Yo, ik ben Anwar. We zijn vandaag hier in Haarlem bij het gemeenteraad. We gaan politieke partijen een paar vragen stellen.
Hoi allemaal, ik ben Edna, ik ben 16 jaar. Ik zit bij vereniging Triple Threat. En de afgelopen weken hebben wij met de meidenactiviteit, die ik in mijn vrije tijd doe met mijn partner Jasmila, een workshop gedaan met oudere mensen, omdat we jong met oud wilden verenigen.
In een lifestyle community, zoals wij dat noemen. En een community is eigenlijk de tweede familie, of misschien voor sommigen gewoon de enige familie die er is.
Yes. So I'm curious if there are people that want to say something about it or have. In the meantime, I'm going to introduce Fosi Benamou. That's one of our role models.
Yeah.
And I would like to ask you, Fosi, what it means to you, because I can tell a lot about it, but you are a role model.
Yes.
What does it mean to you?
Yeah? Maybe we can give him the spotlight.
Yeah, sure.
Well. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Fosi, 20 years old. I was a former basketball player. Now I work at Triple Chat. I'm now 20 years old. I'm now seen as a role model, but I wasn't always a role model. Because once I was also a young kid that was just playing and doing what he liked, but didn't have the right guidance to do and achieve what we're capable of achieving. And now that I am a role model, I am in a position that I can guide the kids. I can just talk with them, play with them, and just tell them what they can do. And for me, it's a great position to be in, because I can see like a lot of me's, a lot of younger me's, and see them just doing things. And now I can like make them realize stuff that I only realized later. So it like, I'm giving them things that I used to have that. I used to need a lot of time to realize that. And now that I can start early with them to make sure that they can achieve way more than I did. And that for me makes me really proud to be in a position of a role model.
Thank you, Fosi, and you make me really proud hearing you talk. So that's also really important. Thank you. I don't see any suggestions of things, so I'm just going to go forward with the presentation. Like I said, we have different steps in this. As you can see on the top picture, that's a placemaking project that we did with Placemaking Plus. You also see Peter Grunendahl on the picture. I think one of the most beautiful things I think about placemaking, but also actually the people behind it, and in this case that are mostly for us, Peter and Stefan. They are really involved in the community itself. They really invest in the people, getting to know them, giving them opportunities, because Placemaking Plus was really they really opened up doors for us where we couldn't open them, because we come from the area itself, but people don't always take you serious when you have an initiative like we had. But we actually were really connected with the community, but the standard systems and the classic way of looking at things, they couldn't really connect with us, and they couldn't find the links that were necessary, where Placemaking Plus always looked at what can we do right now with the people, for the people, and how can we make impact. And the top picture is a beautiful example of that, where we had the shopping mall that really was missing the community and missing the people that were involved from the area with the shopping mall. So we started a project called DOC, where we did culture, sport, and especially passion on various different places. But one of them was the rooftop of a building. So you see a Zumba class here, but the whole summer there were all kinds of projects we were doing. So it really also developed us as Triple Threat to look at things a certain way, and always look at community building, doing things right now with people, and let things happen. So it's not always a plan for 3 or 4 years. You need to have that behind things, but you just need to start off with things and do things. So for example, we started off in a shopping mall with a little pop-up center. And right now we have a big place in the shopping mall, 1,100 square meters, with a lot of activities, because every time we proved ourselves that we needed to be there, and a lot of people felt connected, and there started to be more life in the shopping mall itself. So we have the basketball club, we have the community. Passion really combines everything, and that makes us one family where everybody wants to be a part of. Right now, we reach around 500 kids per week. So every week we reach around 500 kids. That's with all kinds of different activities, from being at the schools, from doing, for example, FOSI itself already is reaching around 100 kids a week with basketball training, with homework guidance, all kinds of different things. And we have a lot of role models right now that are doing activities within the neighborhood. But always our focus is the activities aren't the central thing. Developing a bond with the kids and making them develop, that's the main purpose. And for example, basketball is just a way to get that done. Over the years, we actually developed a methodology. At first, we were just doing things, just going with the flow and going with the moment. But as time went on, we are already existing for 11 years right now. We saw the same structure coming every time. So we created a golden circle where we start off with street school. That means we go to the streets and to the school. So we go to the kids. We don't wait till they come to us, but we'll go to them and just let them get an introduction with us. From that point on, we try to get them to bridge activities. Bridge activities are small activities, mostly free, but really easy to go to. And from there, we try to get them to structural participation. And structural participation means they're coming every week, once a week, maybe even more times a week, but we see them every week, we see them. And if we get them to that, we call that our community. So they're part of our lifestyle community. And they can just develop there, be surrounded by the people we talked about, but also by a lot of opportunities. So also a network from people that also want to help you move forward. From the community, from structural participation, we look at kids that have that extra edge, like an X factor. Now, FOSI is a great example of that, because he can really touch people and make them get involved. And that we call them role models. We try to develop them and give them the tools to teach the kids things, and they will make the same circle for the next generation. So all our role models went through this cycle, so they know exactly what they need to do to get other kids through the same cycle. So if you look at our lifestyle community, it's really a broad thing. If you look at activities, we have the basketball club Triple Threat, like I said, 24 teams. We really also have high ambitions for just playing professional sports. We have like a ladies group, music, creative platform, so making videos, those kinds of things. We have a lifestyle center, so a place where kids just can walk in and get involved. In the lifestyle center is also a barbershop where you can cut your hair, a music studio, you can dance over there. There's a place where you can just find your passion, but also do something with your passion. The Next Gen is a program where we develop the role models. So that's a structured program where you get the tools and the knowledge to become a role model. And we have a lot of interns. So we think it's really important to have internships, and kids from there on can become part of our family. Now our dream, we're still having one big dream, the House of Dreams, a place where everything comes together. So as well our sport dreams as our cultural dreams, everything needs to come together in one place. So that's why I really want to share this with you, because I really believe that if you have dreams, you need to speak them into existence. So right now, sharing our dream with you guys, I hope that will move the dream forward. But this is really what we are envisioning, a place where kids can walk into, be involved with all kinds of passions, and just a place where positivity and development is central. So I hope within 5 years you will see a video, a paper, it doesn't matter, but you will see that we realized our dreams. Actually, Stefan and Peter and the whole team is still also really involved in this. And right now we actually already are doing this. And I think the way we are doing this right now is more placemaking. So we are doing this at a place that doesn't have that structure. We don't know for how long we can be here, but we are doing it and we are showing that it does work and it needs to be there. So everybody surrounded with it or involved with it feels the urgency to also get the dream done. So that's really also the link that I would like to make with placemaking, and a lot that we learned from it and still are integrating in the things we do every day is really just one, really looking at what is necessary and listen to the people instead of thinking I'm already 31 years old, so I'm not the one that should decide what is cool and what's not cool. That's why we have, for example, Fosi that knows way better what we need to do there. So it's really important to really listen and really don't have a plan that structures all the way and have no room for flexibility, but really move on what is necessary. But also the creativity, so doing things with what's there on the moment, and don't let anybody hold you back. And one of our strongest unique selling points again is we really have our own identity and we know what we want, we know what we are, and we don't let other people decide how that should be. So everything we do from Triple Threat is really from the youth, represents them, feels like it's theirs, and that's what really makes a difference. And that's how we try to make impact every day. So thank you for listening to my story, and yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Okrah. It was a super inspiring story, and thanks a lot for also doing it in English for our audience and taking that step ahead.
I tried.
Oh, you were perfect. And yeah, I mean, I have like a few appreciation in the chat box for you. Great work, super inspiring, and keep up the great work.
Thanks.
And yeah, and the question, there is also a question, but I think we are going to take that at the end in the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Perfect. So I'm gonna ask Paco to be yeah. Perfect. Paco is here. Yes, Paco. So I would like to welcome you now for the talk, and then of course we do the discussion together with you and Okrah at the end.
Great. Okrah, thanks for a great story.
Thanks, Paco.
Yeah. Shall I start?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So yeah, hi, I'm Paco Bunnik. I'm an architect, urban designer. I work for the city since 12 years. And before that, I have my own architecture studio for 10 years. So it started with architecture and progressing into urban design. And the more and more I work on it, the more the social aspects of working and the community building starts to become more important to me. So I will guide you through some ideas and work we do in the city. Let's see. Yeah. Is this clear for you?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, wait, I'm gonna make it full screen, right?
Yes, and then it's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my story is not definitely just singular about the placemaking community, but I just walk around the theme through just by showing some aspects of our work as urban planners for the city of Amsterdam, and which will give you an idea of how I think on these subjects. So this is a kind of framework I made for this lecture. Something about growing patterns, the way the city is evolving, what's the DNA of the city, then something about design experiment and how to innovate in this kind of design and experiment. And then some notes on the public realm, on the importance of the social aspects of the public realm. Then just some personal examples of successful placemaking in the city, maybe Amsterdam, maybe other places. And some slides to finish, but with some personal inspiration, which I think is nice to end with. So when we see the city of Amsterdam, DNA of the city, it started with landscape. So the original soil of Amsterdam is quite difficult to build on. It's a vegetative soil, it's very moist, it's difficult, it's always connected with water. So this is the DNA of our place, let's say. And when you see in history that through landscape, through public design in the city, through governance, the way we work together to fight a bigger force, which is nature, water, there's always this kind of integral design. So the Dutch are quite good, I think, in this kind of integral design methodology. And I think it derives from the origin of fighting a bigger force. So you have to work from farmer to minister together to make some kind of controlled and working system. This is a nice series of maps about the growing patterns of Amsterdam, starting in the Middle Ages when Amsterdam was a fisherman's village on the water with open sea connection. And then later, with the VOC area and the founding of the canal district, you see that more blue becomes green because the city is growing and then people needed food. So agricultural polders were just made. And then further into the industrial age, the train lines were made. Haarlem, here, just lines made, more blue becomes green. Then the age of the car, the 60s, new land made, Almere here, the Flevopolder. More intensification, more urbanism. And then let's say 2020s, it's not only Amsterdam, it's more like a bigger network. But you see that there's a big transgression through landscape. So it's interesting, I think. When you look at Amsterdam itself, we have a densification strategy because Amsterdam is growing. The metropolitan region is about 2.4 million people. But the city itself is not too big, it's about 880,000. But it's still growing. And the strategy of the city of Amsterdam is that we grow within the city limits. So the The city has got a kind of shape of a hand. These are the fingers, and the landscape is always penetrating here, the green, towards the center of the city. And this scheme was invented in the 1930s, and still it's active. So we say that this green land is protected area, let's say. You cannot build huge urban schemes in it. So the way we grow is to grow within the city limits, so within this hand, let's say, in two ways, around the ringway, the A10, but also the waterfront here. The whole waterfront is it's a big urban project, let's say, but also here along the Zuidas, Arena Poort, Belmar. This line is a big growth, let's say. And yeah, you can say you can grow in two ways, or you build new land, like Eiburg, all the islands we build in the water. But this is only like 15% or 10% of the growth we do. So let's say 85% is just reusing or transforming existing areas like industrial spaces or less dense populated spaces. So this is good to know. This is the biggest part of transformation is within existing structure, which is also quite difficult. I would like to show you one I work on several projects, but I'm particularly fond of and proud of one right now. This is the Buiksloterham, which I'm a supervisor of. And we've been experimenting with new ways of working. We made a new urban plan. And the way we worked on it, I would like to tell you something about the search for the DNA of the area and the way we work. For me, it's very important, and it's also a kind of placemaking, community building in urban planning. So we made a master plan for about 8,000 houses and offices, and all kinds of new public space in this whole area, which is now, just like a post-industrial site, let's say. But making this was interesting. So what I did is not just make a new plan, but we really started to go back into history and study it and see what is the DNA of this area and how can we use this DNA as storytelling for this new urban plan. So it starts here in the this is an old picture of the Buiksloterham, which was an industrial site. Very, very polluted. It's the most polluted area in Amsterdam with a lot of polluted soil. But before that, it was just meadowland. So this is here, this is Amsterdam city center. And the whole north of Amsterdam was just heightened polders with dugout water structures used for meadowlands for the agricultural purposes. So that's how it started. This is the Buiksloterham. Then later, the first real activity there, besides having cows, let's say, was in 1919. It was just after the First World War ended. Air travel and aerial innovation became more important, and then the ELTA was just like a sort of big fair for air travel. And out of this ELTA, the Fokker was founded. So that was the first the factory for planes here. And on the canal in the Buiksloterham, these were just used as a test bed for this whole Fokker factory, which is interesting, I think. So the way you use your space as a laboratorium, it says something about the way you use your city. Also here, this is a demolished thing. This was an old waste incinery, waste plant, directly on the big river, on the Ei. And what happened that the waste from the central city was transported over the water, over the canals, over the Ei, towards this huge factory. And it was just within these cables, and it went into the building, and it was just, let's say, into the production process. But this is interesting. For me, finding these kind of pictures, this is exactly what we are trying to do again now. So we lost this kind of knowledge. Now again, we say, why don't we? All the heavy lorries are destroying our quays in Amsterdam. Very actual, actually. And now we're trying to make new schemes on how we can use the water for these kind of waste problems, etc. Instead of only tourists in boats. So this is interesting. So the diving into history gives you also new ideas how you can deal with sustainability. Also, social experiments happened here. Amsterdam, this is the five-cornered area here in the middle of the industrial site. In 1927 made, was built as a social experiment because this is the time when Amsterdam was super poor and people lived in like super small grotten, let's say, just very bad living conditions. And then lots of houses were being built, social housing. But there were many people, like asocial families who couldn't, they didn't trust them to live in this kind of house. So they made a sort of test village, which is Assadorp, to learn how to live in a normal house, let's say. It's crazy. It was an experiment, again, and it was a failed experiment. And then later in the Second World War, this became a ghetto for Jewish people. So it was like a prison almost. After the war, it was demolished, but then there was sort of like, I call it frames of resistance, the squatting, part of the squatting. So André Volte, which is a very famous sculptor in the Netherlands, he squatted the only remains of this Assadorp, which is the poortgebouw, the gate building, and he had his atelier, his studio, which is still intact. And if you have the chance, you have to see this. This is one of the most beautiful mini musea in the Netherlands. And he built many famous sculptures. This is the neighborhood here. But in the whole Netherlands, there are big works from André Volte. And what also is nice that he just traveled around this Buitenslotterham, and he went to the steel factory and to the wood guys. And then just from local connections, he made his art. So this is also a way of how to work together in a community to make something new. And then the city came in because we wanted to make plans for the city, and then we made a competition, and we asked for the competition asked for new, sort of community on sustainable ways of working, and then a team community won. They found the Keuvel, which is a very known scheme for sustainable ways of working and community building. This is the first actual sort of placemaking cityscape which introduced a small scale into the Buitenslotterham. And out of this, the circular Buitenslotterham was invented. There was a sort of, well, people came together and said, hey, this is a cool way to make cities, and it's sustainable, and it's a community. So we have to make a sort of thing about it. It will become part of a bigger story. So also the gemeente Amsterdam, the city of Amsterdam, which I work for, said yes to this whole story of circular Buitenslotterham, and it became a sort of DNA story of how to further develop this kind of area. So then we made other competitions to build your own house, and then many people were waiting for weeks in caravans to have tickets to it was a crazy place, because we thought, yeah, maybe nobody wants to live there, but many people want to build there because it's unique to build your own house, of course, in a fantastic location. But also these people founded a community. It's not only that you built your own house, but what they did is that they met each other because they were in the middle of nowhere. And they sort of, they did many things already, many initiatives from these local communities. So this is the Papaver Park. This is a park they co-designed with the gemeente. To just also to make your own public space. Just not accept directly what the city is making, but to say, hey, we want more green, or we want more playground. And this kind of discussion and openness and open culture, these kind of things were happening. Then bigger initiatives came in. This is Schoon Schip, Clean Ship. This is the community of very eco-sustainability, sustainable houseboats, let's say. And this came out of also a community building process. And also all these buildings here, they are they're collective housing groups. So it was in the middle of the crisis, and then nobody built, but then the city made also sort of competitions, and then architects with groups of people together, communities, they started to build this innovative new housing typologies, which are very successful. Also interesting. This is a place, plaatje van of the clean ship, schoon schip, with all the sustainability things that they invented. It's really a playground for new innovative ways, and now it's been scaled up to maybe an idea. So this is super interesting. But also these buildings, they what is interesting that when you give people an opportunity and they just become and not say you have to do exactly this and that, then this is room for innovation. So out of these kind of buildings, much more innovative and sustainable ways come out than when the municipality tells you have to do it like this. So this, for me, this is a big lesson. And outside of this building group of architects, there's also an openbuilding.co. It's a website when they have a sort of manifesto on how to deal with this kind of new sustainable open building structures. It's very interesting to see. The next step of development by Rotterdam was also by an architect's office, Studio in Mijndots, who made City Plot. It's a series of small buildings to get built together, but still this kind of DNA of initiative. It's not designed by the city or by our urban planning team, but just by local initiative. And we just give space for this kind of project. Then our work started. It was like 2 years ago, and I incorporated these people and these ideas into the planning. So what I did, normally we design a bit top down, let's say in Amsterdam. So we make urban plans with your own design team, and then you give out plots to be built on. But we turn it around and we said, no, we just want to get this DNA of the existing initiatives into our planning thing. So I invited 4 architects' offices and a landscape architect, and every week we came together building models and searching for new typologies on not only living but also working underneath. So not getting rid of all the work in the city workplace, but just make mixed typologies, which are very interesting. And the landscape architect, Delva, he made a really beautiful scheme on how to deal with public space, not only in the public space itself, but also in and on and around the buildings. Not only that, we also made a participation process during the plan. So we didn't make a plan first, we just invited local residents to have sketch sessions with us, especially on the green, because they're very worried that we're going to build so many houses and all the green and public space disappears. So out of this open discussions, we really incorporated this as a sketch by a local resident. This is now, all these green dots are part of our urban plan now. So this is a very nice way of working, I think. So building that model week by week, we invented it, and later we made a more beautiful model out of it, which is now in a sort of expo center in the area, so people can also, and now it's COVID, it's a bit difficult, but you can visit the model and have a discussion, which is good. These are just some pictures that came out of it. So all the polluted soil was we keep in the area, so we dug it in, so this new kind of places come out of it. Many car-free areas. So this is really, I think it's a beautiful way of working. Also, we make neighborhood hubs here. So we said 50% of the cars go underground, but the other 50% is like shared mobility systems. So we have to also make 4 new schools. There's a school building here. I always combine a school with a neighborhood hub, which is mobility, bike parking, sports on top. It's a basketball court here, and then 8-meter high functions in the plinth. So this is the neighborhood hub is not a parking garage, but it's like a more multi-functional building, which is always in a car-free area, directly connected to housing, working, and a school. So these kind of inventions came out of this working together with the architects and the landscape architect. And now it's part of our scheme. Okay, then some notes on the public realm, which I think is interesting when we think about community building and placemaking. I think the public realm is also an interaction space, where maybe also tension is just a natural aspect, and you learn from it. It's part of society. And in that way, for me, the city is a laboratorium, and you shouldn't have to be the controlling factor as a municipality. But you just have to see how does it work, how can we interfere, and not take it for granted that it's a temporary thing. But the temporary thing can always be also be something permanent, in my opinion. So don't be afraid. The way you use space in the city is tension. So, for example, cars, they occupy a lot of space. 95% of the time, cars don't drive at all, so they just are there. So we need to transfer this kind of honest use of space more into pedestrian bike areas, green. So this is happening in many cities. I just read an article today about Paris that they're going to remove 50% of all their parking spaces within the next 10 years. This is amazing. So these things are happening. But also action, public energy, which has to show itself in the city, and the way you use public space to have societal change is extremely important. We should allow it as a city. This is, of course, last year, but that happened before. It happened in the 80s with the squatting scene, and it was about housing. You should have the honest housing for so social housing in the city. So this is a riot and protest, very important in the city of Amsterdam, and it's helped, I think, the city a lot to become itself. But also, this is an interesting picture. In the 60s, there were many people died, many children died of car accidents because there were so many cars in the 60s. And then people just had enough, and that they made these kind of big strikes in important places in the city to show the municipality that they needed more safer public space. So outside of this public riot or protest, the whole bicycle movement and the whole was sort of invented. So it's not really invented by, you could say, by the municipalities. It's invented by public protest. Because just people felt the need that the city has, and also the public realm has to change. So this is super interesting. Then a little bit placemaking things for me. In Amsterdam, this is Zeeburger Eiland, and this is also not only invented by the city, but there was a skating scene. They had another place, and then they had to go away, and then they knocked on the door in the city and said, we want a bigger, more professional space. And then together with the landscape designer of the city, this got a permanent place in the Zeeburger Eiland, which is now a famous place for skating, of course. And I think this is also placemaking, with a permanent character. The Beugel I showed you before, also a local initiative that now became a sort of very nice part of a new eco-community, let's say. Woeste Westen initiative by some parents who wanted more natural playgrounds for their kids. Now it's a super great example of playing in nature for children, and it's been repetized in many other places now, but it also becomes out of a personal initiative of a citizen, and then the city is open and inviting enough to incorporate it into urban planning. This is another one, an international example, a very famous one. It's Bryant Park in New York City. This used to be a very stone area, and there was lots of protest in the neighborhood. People wanted more green. Then they made this into a temporary park, and it's already, 40 years old. One of the most successful urban places in the world. So this is not designed actually. This is just outside of. It is designed, but it came out of protest, out of action. Then another thing I'm working on are light and art schemes in the city. So you could say, yeah, you have a light festival in Amsterdam, of course, but I think that these kind of initiatives should be permanent in a way. So this is a great work by Titia X, who's a famous Dutch light artist. And this is a community building thing that she did with the entrepreneurs of the market in the Tenkatenmarkt. And there was a competition, she won it, and she built this big sort of grapes, let's say, and then in the evening the light comes out of the grapes and they're on the street, and it's a beautiful scheme. It also attracts youth people start dancing, interacting. So it's in the daytime, it's sort of symbol of the market, and in nighttime it becomes something else. So these kind of, using artists also and with local community building can be a kind of permanent thing in the city. Also, yeah, we made now about 20 permanent light art installations in the last 7 years. I just show you 2 or 3. There's another one near the central station, which was a very dark area. It illuminates 2 guys. They found a beautiful scheme, which there were perspex lights, and when a train goes over, the bridge shakes a little bit, and then these things start to move, and then you see the sort of moving reflection on the water, which is very beautiful. This is also a permanent scheme now, so it was just sort of experimenting, but we kept it, and now it's kind of permanent. This is not permanent. This was beautiful work in the Amsterdam Light Festival. But the impact of the Light Festival was quite big, I think. And we decided, we just signed a contract that for the next 10 years, every year, we're going to build 1 permanent light artwork, which also has been built during the Light Festival, but then it's introduced as a permanent scheme within the city. So this is also community building and collaboration with a festival and a kind of placemaking system. Okay, to end my story, some personal inspiration. Then I think I have 4 slides. One is about audacity, to be brave, to be bold, to want to take risks. Or maybe what Okrah said about passion, about personal energy. And for me, the city of Paris is incredible for the last 10 years. The boldness also of the mayor there, Hidalgo, and the way they try to reinvent their city, also in many big competitions, and the way it uses public space is, I think, fast forward and very interesting to study and to observe. Another one which I wanted to show you is Amanda Burden. She's the Chief Planning Commissioner of the City of New York, and she's a super high function, but she is a walker, so she walks all around the city. And there's one TED lecture which I think that you have to see this. And she explains in this lecture the importance of public space and social interaction and activation. And this is a really, really important lecture, I think, when you are in my business work. And she says, and one of the latest phrases is tap into humanity. I mean, you can design anything, but you just know as a human being, you don't have to be an architect or a designer. You just know when something is right or not right. And the way she explains it, I think is very intriguing. And this is my last slide. So you need these guys also, of course, in any city, in any place. You need local initiative, courage, people who just are willing to be front runners of any urban process. So, oh yeah, I think this is my last slide. I was one of the people with a group of people who made a podcast. It was just released a few weeks ago. You can see it here. This is also a little bit about placemaking, but a bit more storytelling. So we try to interview people, how they work on the city, and how this kind of work changes the city. So it's in all kinds of aspects, from storytelling, free space. You just have to check it, and this is also interesting. So it's also in the debate in the city on how the city will work and change. So thank you. This is my last.
Great, great. Paco, thank you so much. And I think it was really interesting that we had these two very different stories from Paco and Okrah because, yeah, I mean, there is a city architect and there is a community architect, I would say, who is Okrah. So I think it was very nice and very different. I am going to start taking some questions from the chat, which we have. And the first question was for Okrah from Titya. She of course appreciates your work, and then she asked, did you go outside with the COVID-19 also into the streets, and how did it go with that?
Yeah, definitely. COVID-19 was really, especially from neighborhoods like ours. But at the same time, you see how innovative the kids are. So how quickly they can adjust to new situations, think of new ways to go through with things we always were doing. So we actually, we went outside, but we also did a lot of things in many different ways. So from online dance classes to, we actually also had a youth service set up where we brought shopping for the elderly. So our kids did a service where the elderly could give their groceries that they would get them in time. All kinds of those kind of things actually were happening all the time. So we really experienced a lot of new things and new ways of looking at the.
Okay, nice, really nice. And yeah, I was also actually wondering for Paco, like what is that one thing that you think in the city has to like come forward with to initiate these community binding and different kind of initiatives? Like what is that one thing that is very important as a city, as a Gemeente, as a municipality to come up with, like also as a lesson for the other, like for other countries, for example?
I think there's one word which explains it all, and it's be invited. So you have to invite citizens, you have to invite other designers, which is not only your own system, to show what are the right examples, and I think learning from that and incorporate it within your system makes your own city system more democratic and more innovative, I think.
Yeah, okay. And Okrah, what do you think about that one thing, like Paco said? So now you are at the other end. So what do you think is that one most important thing that a city can provide or can come up with for community initiatives and placemaking?
I actually agree that it should be really invited. Also, you really want to facilitate, make them yours or make them switch to your system, but let them grow the way they want to grow and give their own, really have ownership and autonomy. So nobody actually can tell us what is the right thing to do, even not the people that fund us, because they know that the only way it works is when we do it the way we want to do it, or the way that the youth really wants it to be done.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what is nice? What Okrah said, he showed this picture of this pavilion, which is a dream, and maybe, I mean, in a few years' time, it will be somewhere in the Netherlands. But also, for example, in Paris, there was two street artists and the Decathlon and a group of local basketball players, and they made beautiful basketball fields in the middle of the city. But it's an integration, it's a cooperation between the market, like the Decathlon, the street artists, and local guys. So I mean, these kind of things, and then so culture comes out, which everybody's proud on. I mean, that's city. That's for me. That's really truly placemaking.
Yeah.
It's not placemaking is not a temporary joke. It's about integrated social building and yeah, finding out new culture and new exposure, I think.
Exactly. I have one more question from Mirna. She says, sounds and looks good, Paco. It would be great if this can be realized at Pauschatimeplein. And can we start already with her initiative? Yeah, I think she wants to ask about the initiatives and the status also with Pauschatimeplein and the placemaking at Pauschatimeplein.
Yeah. Well, your office was part of the placemaking strategy of Pauschatimeplein, and now we're making a temporary park. And there's a placemaking team with all local residents who are sort of trying to build up things. And some things are coming out right now. So pavilion next year, a garden for butterflies, sporting initiatives. So yeah, it starts now. Slowly but surely.
Yes. And Okrah, I have one more question for you. How do you see inclusiveness in the city, and how did you like if you think that it wasn't there, then how did you really overcome that factor?
And do you mean social inclusiveness or more
like
actually one of the most things, the most important things in our community is, and what I'm most proud of is our diversity, and thereby also the inclusiveness. And I think that really comes with the focus on passion, or the focus on something that's bigger than where you come from, what your beliefs are, and that really connects people. So that's culture, that is sports, but it's also food. And what we see in that is that a lot of times what happens also with initiatives like ours is that it becomes an initiative for one type of group, one type of people that already look at the same way at the same things and go in a sort of spiral. So I really believe that you need to invest in the diversity and facilitate it, and then automatically it becomes more inclusive. And we if I look at our community, for example, Fosi has a Moroccan background. I'm half Ghanaian. We have a lot of different beliefs and also cultures within our community, which makes it really interesting when some topics come up, because everybody looks at it a different way. But we can actually, by talking to each other, learn from each other by doing. So that's how I look at just invest.
Great, perfect. And it's a question that comes for both of you. So basically, of course, there is a top-down approach, there is a bottom-up approach. We have been talking about this topic since a very long time now, but what would be that one thing, like as the municipality and as you, Okrah, coming from the community, what would be that one thing that you think like is very strong in the Netherlands, which we are doing right here? And
what do you mean with that?
So basically, which is that one thing that we are doing right, or you think you are doing perfectly right, and can also, like for example, from you, how can the other communities from other countries can get inspired?
Right. I think what we are really doing really well, but I think Fosi can elaborate on that after me, is we really give control and ownership to the youth itself. So right now, Fosi, you could say something about that. Fosi is already guiding kids that have certain ideas or certain initiatives, and Fosi looks at with them how they can develop that. And right now, I'm really not the person that is deciding what's going to happen next. Fosi, can you say something about that?
Yeah. What I'm doing right now is like I have it started initially with a basketball team with some kids from the community, and we developed it into like a group that organizes and starts different initiatives, from doing a bingo for the community, or realizing that there are not enough football events. So they organize a football event, or they come to me and they ask me, can we organize this, or can we organize an afternoon only for the boys, so no girls, you know, the young kids. And I think that what we're doing right is that they really have the feeling that they can come to us and talk to us about those things. Or if they want to organize something, or they want to see something happen, even if they're only 11, 12, 13 years old, they already have the feeling that they can come to us and realize it. So I think that that is very, very valuable in our community. Yes.
Great. Thanks, Fuzzy. And yeah, now the question comes to you, Paco. The same question.
Yeah, I think Dutch, this country is full of great designers, and sometimes they sort of tend to be over serious about their own design. And I think the best design comes out of this community building aspects, and trying to find each other and just design something that you don't know exactly the outcome of. That will be in the end the most successful and beautiful design, I think. So that's sort of a change of culture which is slowly coming into the process, but we have to learn a lot still, and do a lot, and experiment a lot.
Yes, that's very true. That's very true. And also from a presentation, I saw a lot of influence from the history, of course. So yeah, how do you think then the history of Amsterdam, the history of the Netherlands go around with community building and with placemaking? Have we also in the past done a few things?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, there is a willingness to really co-work and co-create. I think that's quite people really like that in the Netherlands. But then you have to really take it seriously and just do it.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And yeah, we are coming towards the end. I have no further questions. Yes, so maybe to round it up, I would like to take one-liners from you, Okrah, and from you, Paco, for placemaking and for community building. And what would be that thing that you would like to say?
Ooh, that's always hard, but the thing I always want to give to people is that they don't underestimate how much impact they can have as an individual. So maybe you think you are part of a big system, and that's actually true. But also as an individual, you as yourself can really make a big difference just by doing what you do, inspiring people, giving your passion through. And I believe, as I look at Fosi and I see what he does on a daily basis, I see that from really close by. And also he is part of a bigger picture. He's part of an area, but he's also part of a school system and everything that comes around it. But I really believe that you as an individual can't underestimate how much impact you can have.
Great. That's a very good, inspiring one. And Paco?
I think my message will be that everyone should realize that the city is an open laboratorium, and that everybody, even if you're not a designer or just anybody from any age group, can be an influencer in this system, in this lab.
Yeah.
Try to really be part of it and use it and show what you want.
Perfect. Great. So I think we had a great session today with you, Okrah, and with you, Paco. Thanks a lot for joining us today and giving an insight about the city, about placemaking, about the community initiatives, and how, Okrah, you have incredibly taken it to the level now you have. And with Fozzy, for example, coming up today. Thanks, Fozzy, for inspiring this again. And
Thank you.
yeah, and thank you so much. And also from Paco already showed us some examples from Titia. And so we are looking forward to our next talk from Titia X and PMAFers in our third webinar. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Okay, bye.
Bye, great.